In the last two videos, we talked about pretty much the handoff of the business. We talked about understanding when the kids are ready for that handoff, like how do I know when they're ready to take over the business. And then the last video, we talked about mom and dad letting go of the business. But the fact is, most family businesses are not at that transition point. They're at the point before that where the kids are working in the business and mom and dad are leading the business. And what we want to talk about today are boundaries, the boundaries that can be put in place, and specifically the way we use a strategic plan to help put those boundaries in place so that the relationship between the parents and the children can really be enhanced and they can get all the benefits of working together with somebody that they know and spending all that time together and actually enhancing the family and the personal relationship without the business kind of getting in the way and causing problems. And this happens a lot. Probably the majority of our clients that have families in the business, the parents come to me and we talk about this issue a lot. And it manifests in a lot of ways. Usually what I hear is, they won't quit telling me all the things that are wrong with the business. Like they've worked here, a half a dozen years or 10 years or 15 years or 2 years or whatever, and they think they know everything. And there's so much that they don't know, but whether it's at the baseball game or out to dinner or over Thanksgiving or after church on Sunday, like we get into these conversations that I really don't want to have where they just beat me up about all the things they're hearing in the business and da-da-da-da-da. And so when we have businesses, when we have families that are engaged in strategic planning and execution, it's what we do, it's what we drive, it's what we preach. You guys, every time you talk to me, you're going to hear me talk about strategic planning, execution, coaching. And the families that do this and do it well, they use the strategic plan to help set boundaries around that relationship and the business so that the family relationship is actually enhanced. And there's a few ways that we do that. When we talk about setting boundaries, a strategic plan is going to let the kids know what's important and what's not. What we find is that a lot of the problems are created because there are these topics that come up that are really kind of periphery or immaterial. They're not the big picture stuff. They're not the really important stuff. I'm not saying that small tactical things can't be important, but it often is the case that when the kids don't know the bigger picture, they tend to focus on small details and get stuck in the weeds and not really see how those issues, those problems are just symptoms of a bigger issue that we are working on, that we are trying to solve, but we can't take our focus off the bigger issue to take care of these smaller little petty things that you keep griping about because they're not as important as you think they are. And when we talk about a strategic plan, shedding light on those, it's very practical how it does it. And when we talk about a strategic plan, just a strategic planning 101 primer, a strategic plan is going to include values, vision, why, and mission. So values, what is the culture that you've articulated? And these are the things that you hold, these are the standards you hold people to when they go about their role in the business, no matter what it is, dealing with customers, employees, vendors, whatever. What are the values that we live out in the business every day? The vision, where are we taking this thing? What's the end game? What's the destination we're trying to get to? Why do we do it? What's my personal motivation as the leader to have these particular values and this vision? And the mission encapsulates how we go about that every day. It's kind of the singular statement that rolls a lot of that into one, and we can quote it at the drop of a hat because it describes who we are, why we are, what we do, and how we do it. These things are fairly permanent. They don't. The reason they're the big picture is because they don't change very often. We hardly ever change our values. Our vision, we would change if we got there or if it was imminent that we were going to achieve it. We need a bigger vision now. Our why, our personal motivations rarely change, and our mission is pretty succinct and it doesn't change very often as well. Not to say we wouldn't revise it or refine it or tweak it, but the soul of it is going to stay pretty much the same. We get to strategies, we're talking about the areas, the one or two areas we're going to focus the time and attention of the entire team on. What are we really going to hone in on that we need to focus our efforts in order to make this vision happen? And these things will typically take 2 to 3 years, sometimes longer, but usually 2 to 3 years to achieve, to wring all the goodness out of this strategy and to take advantage of the opportunity or to fully realize the promise of whatever that strategy is. The goals we reset every year, and the priorities last for 90 days, and the tasks are the things that we commit to do over the next week. So if you have a strategic plan and your kids know the strategic plan, you can pull it out. It's not something that's just in your head. It's actually on paper. We have a copy of one here, but it's a one-page plan, the format that we use with our clients, and it has all of this on there. And it becomes very easy for them to see what's really important. Is the little squabble around the water cooler last week important? Or is that squabble indicative of a value that we don't hold here, and it is a big deal? So it gives them some sense of what they should be talking to you about and what you perceive as petty. And believe me, if you perceive it as petty, they don't want to bring it to your attention because they don't want to be perceived as petty. So having a strategic plan is going to help communicate what's important. It's also going to tell them where they can contribute. So the other thing that I hear a lot is, my kid has a million great ideas, and he gets ticked off when he can't realize that we can't do all of those things. Yeah, I recognize they're good ideas, but we don't have enough capital, or we don't have enough people, or we don't have enough whatever to take advantage of that right now. What I would really like them to do, if they could come up with an idea to do this, that would be fantastic. So a strategic plan, especially when we get into the strategies, what are the things we're really focused on the next 2 to 3 years? Your kids usually imagine themselves inheriting this business one day. They do think about it in the shower. They think about it when they're going to sleep. They think about it when they wake up. They think about it when they're driving around, driving to work, driving from work, driving kids to soccer games. It's on their mind, and if their best thinking is focused on the direction you're trying to take the business over the next 2 to 3 years and some practical steps, practical projects, things that you can implement to get there, that's where they're going to be able to contribute. So you want their thinking, but you just want it in the right place. When to talk about it. If you have a strategic plan and you've got kids in the business, they should be a part of it. It doesn't matter whether they're at the very bottom rung of the ladder, just starting in the mailroom or the front desk. Every employee should know what the strategic plan looks like. And every employee should be given opportunities to talk about the strategic plan, to give feedback, to update their progress. They should each have tasks that they're committed to that tie into their 90-day priorities that feed your one-year goals. That's when we talk about focus, when we talk about bringing everybody together and getting in one direction to really accomplish something great. That's how it happens. It has to be throughout the organization. If you have designated times when they're supposed to be doing those things, it becomes very clear when it's inbounds and when it's out of bounds to bring up these business topics. Not to say they're not going to bring stuff up and they're not going to try to go around their supervisors and gripe to you, but it does give you an opportunity to say, have you talked to your manager about that? I mean, you have a weekly meeting where you guys sit down and go over the big picture all the way down to your commitments. Don't tell me about this values violation. Tell him, because he's in a better position to address it. I got other stuff on my plate. Why don't you go talk to him about that? When they want to talk about big, great ideas that offer great potential, again, it gives you a chance to point, not that you're not going to listen to him, you are going to listen to him, but you say, have you told your manager about that? That's a fantastic idea. He needs to know that. Tell him we had this conversation, that you want some time on his calendar because I want you to address it with him and I want you guys to take it to the next step. So it gives you a great way to get out of those Thanksgiving awkward dinner conversations that really are kind of straying beyond the boundaries you would like them to. And then the last thing is probably the most important. A business that has a strategic plan that the leadership has put together means that everybody's accountable to that plan. Again, from the very junior person to the owner of the company. The owner of the company is accountable to the plan. The owner of the company has laid out a vision. People have signed up and said, I want to follow you on that vision. I believe that you can get us there. That's why I want to be at this company. I like these values. These are the things that I've been looking for in an employer. I love your motivations, your mission. I share it with my family all the time. That's why I'm here. And you have to stay on point in your strategies. You can't get sidelined by bright, shiny objects. You have definite number-oriented goals where you're going to be able to tell whether you've done the thing you said you were going to do at the end of the year, you've reached the market that you wanted to reach. You've got priorities for the next 90 days, and you've got commitments you've made to the team for the next week. That goes throughout the organization. It's awesome for a kid to be able to see that mom and dad are accountable to somebody besides themselves. They're accountable to a plan because they're accountable to the entire team that's counting on that plan to take them to wherever they're going. And a lot of times, we run into issues in the second generation or the third generation because kids were never taught that they are accountable to something beside themselves. Business is looked at as a pot of money that's going to fund this great lifestyle that they grew up enjoying, and people should just be happy for the paycheck, and I want my corner office and my parking space up front. And when you get in the habit of holding yourself accountable to a plan, and your kids can see that, and they can see you saying no to yourself when you have a great idea, but it's going to take you off track. When they say no to yourself when you're not taking more money out of the business because you want to reinvest it into this future strategy to get to this vision. When they see you apologizing to your team because you didn't complete your commitments and you're holding up progress, they're going to learn some valuable lessons about accountability and humility that will pay dividends way, way, way after you're out of the business. So I really encourage you to think about the strategic plan not just as something that's going to help your business grow and expand its reach and its influence, but also something that is a fantastic set of boundaries. And it puts that fence around, that sandbox, around where you want your kids really focused and where you really don't want to have to worry about business. You don't want it to ruin the relationship. You don't want it to be a stress. You actually want it to be a contributor to a great relationship between you and your kids. So get a strategic plan, bring your kids into it, and set some great boundaries.